Hi folks, Slick Slices here. I have a thing for small, pocketable, carryable pen knives. And sometimes the smaller the better, because there are occasions when you probably shouldn't really be carrying a knife even in the UK. So I quite often have carried this one or one very similar to it. Now this is a knife by George Wolstenholme. I don't know if it's vintage. I don't think it's desperately old. It's a nice little knife. It's not it's pinned, but the covers are not pinned on, they're just glued on, which I suspect means it's relatively modern. And it also is stainless steel, which again makes it probably relatively modern. But it's a nice little knife, and it's easy enough to slip in your pocket. Relatively easy to open. You have two blades. It's a straightforward equal end pen knife. You have the Wolstenholme IXL there, Sheffield, England. Nothing on the back. I think the other blade may have the oil the joints thing. No, it's just plain. But you know, it's a nice little knife. I picked it up very cheaply with its original box, which was quite nice, off somebody on Facebook, I think. But I've had this one quite a long time. I've got another one very similar that Warthog gave me. Again, a Wolstenholme. But this one here, I saw this on Congi's Knife Sales, and I kind of threw it in. I was doing a trade, and this kind of made up the numbers. I wouldn't normally have bought it, not because there's anything wrong with it, but it just doesn't quite fit my criteria. On the one hand, it's an A.G. Russell, and A.G. Russell for a long time made their knives in Japan, but they're always, well, A.G. Russell himself, unfortunately he's no longer with us, but he always used to design knives, and then he would have them made wherever he could get the quality and the cost. So hence he went to Japan when Japan was a cheap place to make knives. But as time went on and the reputation of the Japanese knife makers rose, he moved to China, which is a shame in some ways. It's certainly the Almar knives. When they moved to China, they've suffered, but a lot of that is to do with the fact that the company is now run by a guy called Frank Madden, and now Almar is long dead, and there's no real connection with Al. So Almar is Frank Madden is more of a businessman than a knife maker. But this was made during A.G. Russell's lifetime, and effectively under his control, even if it was made in China. And it has a really, really good mother of pearl with lots of depth and figuring in it. Again, like the Wolstenholme, it's the mother of pearl is glued on, which is probably a good thing, because when you have mother of pearl pinned, it's often a recipe for things to chip and break. So, like the Wolstenholme knife, it's reasonably easy to open. Doesn't have quite the same snap though. You have written on the blade there, A.G. Russell. So it has chain on it somewhere, but I don't know where. It's a slightly different blade shape, slightly more pointy than the other one, but it's so similar. It stands perfectly good comparison. and back in. I would say, if I was talking about the blade shape, that this is more traditional British pen blade or spear blade. This is more Japanese. It's slightly more pointy. It starts to slim a little bit earlier in the blade length before you get down to the final point. It's a subtle difference rather than a major one. Probably the bigger difference between these two is these are nickel silver bolsters and these are stainless steel, and you've got brass liners on that one, and this one is all stainless steel. But it's a nice little knife. Now, why am I going down this little route? Because although it's a nice knife, there's nothing particularly special there. But recently I had got another knife from Kongi's Knife Sales. This one comes in a leather slip, which indicates it's either made in Italy or made in Japan. That's a sort of a rule of thumb. This one was made in Japan, and this is a tiny little A.G. Russell. I think they made this in 3 sizes. This is the smallest size. I don't know if they did them all in this abalone and a mother of pearl, or it's just the smallest one. But basically it's a fully titanium knife, except for the blade, and it's a little lock back. But one thing you will notice with it is the blade shape is more that sort of Japanese spear point, drop point possibly, but I don't think what you call it doesn't really matter, but it is more of that sort of pointy style. Of the two, which knife would I prefer to carry? Well, the Japanese one is easier to open because it's a lockback. Slightly harder to close because it's a lockback, but I actually probably prefer this one, even though it's made in China. The main reason being I'm not really a big fan of abalone. I think I've got another abalone knife somewhere, but it's literally, I've got a couple, but I've got quite a few mother of pearl, and in my display stand, display case, I have a whole shelf of mother of pearl knives, because they are just my favourite handle material. But this little A.G. Russell was made in Seki City. I can't say for certain who it was made by. There's probably scope to do some research to find out, but I just thought it might be interesting to compare it with this little Almar knife. I've shown this before, but this is another Japanese made knife. Now I'm pretty sure I know who made this one, because it's made under the Frank Madden era, so that's after Al died, and while Al was making knives, most of them, while Al was alive, most of the knives he had made were made by G. Sakurai, which was a Gerber collaboration, and Almar had connections with Gerber. He used to be their chief designer at one point before he left them to set up his own company. Now this little knife here actually makes the Almar look a lot bigger than it is one of the smallest knives that I have, but in terms of style, design, shape and so forth, I think the Almar is miles ahead of the Russell. It's just nicer, much more nicely finished. This is black lip mother of pearl, by the way. The A.G. Russell is rather more sort of flat slabs and so forth, But again, the A.G. Russell is probably a more practical knife to carry than the Almar one, because the Almar one is just a little bit too small. But it's not the smallest knife I own. It's close. But for many years I've had this little baby, and she was my smallest knife. These have become very, very expensive in recent years, or recent months actually. But this is even smaller than these. Comes on a little lanyard or necklace, really. So it comes on a little lanyard, which is really more of a necklace. The only thing is, I think if you were carrying it as a pendant, you'd probably want the mother of pearl on show rather than a little leather case. But anyway, just before I finish this video off, I'm going to show you my latest little tiny knife, which my daughter gave me, and it may be slightly longer than the Moki, though it's pretty close. The handle's a little bit bigger. Blade size is almost, well, an eighth of an inch, no, quarter of an inch, no, a 16th of an inch more, but it's still a tiny little knife. Overall, it's the lightest, smallest little knife in my collection, and it's very, very cute. The thing is, this is an Opinel number 2. So if it's a number 2, there is presumably a number 1. And I don't know how small the number 1 can possibly be to be smaller than that. But anyway, there we are. This is the only one that doesn't come with a slip as well. The Almar comes with the best slip. The A.G. Russell is not bad. Anyway, if you like this sort of stuff, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of it, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell.